Hello everybody and welcome. I'm No02. Thank you for watching this video. Exciting news for the Cycle Frontier, a 2.4 update for the closed beta 2. So many updates. It's so nice, so exciting for players to just have almost semi bi-weekly regular updates. Very cool, very exciting to see from the devs. Also some bad news though. Also some bad news. I do want to note that this update will be going live literally in hours later on today, April 13th. This update will be live. Check the timestamps to see things that you're interested in or not, as well as for a general summary at the end. The bad news is they were hoping, there was rumors that they were going to potentially release the game in full at the end of this month. They are no longer going to do that because the data that they're gathering from the beta, they're discovering that there's some things that they really enjoy and that they like and that they're working on and making better. There's also some things that they don't like and they don't feel comfortable yet releasing the game in its current state because there's still some stuff that they want to polish and get correct. It's always good to hear from a dev. So the good news is, though, they want to keep collecting more data and get more time to build on their current stuff, to work on their current build. That's what I was trying to say. So the closed beta is being extended from the 19th to the 25th. And sort of between now and then, they'll be keeping us up to date on what the potential release date for the Cycle Frontier will be, and maybe even potential more extension. Maybe this is it. Maybe it'll just be extended forever. Maybe it'll be in beta forever, like Tarkov. Ooh, say that. Okay, here we go. Here are the actual changes to the game. Adjustments. If you had trouble loading into the map and then you would load in and be dead, that should happen less often now. The drop pod sequence will not complete until the player has fully loaded into the game. Oh, this is a big one for squad changes here. You can no longer see the outline of your teammates unless they're in your field of view. So if your teammate walks behind a wall, they disappear. You don't know where they are unless you are communicating with them directly as far as, like, where are you? But you can still tell who your teammate is versus who isn't when you're staring at them side by side, because your teammate will still have an outline around them. Sort of similar to the idea of, like, your teammate having maybe like a positive color floating above their head sort of idea, right? Here are some big changes to armor, though. Armor in the economy, and basically the economy for late game geared players. Increase the K-Marks cost for rare and exotic helmets and shields. I'm not going to go through all the numbers, but as you can see, 4,600 to 12k, 91 to 36k, right? 17 to 82k K-Marks for an exotic shield. Huge price jumps. Major price jumps. I am not the biggest fan of the idea of only using economy to balance the power levels between new players and veteran players. Sort of creates a slippery slope of the late game is almost never financially beneficial to the late game players, where they want to be rewarded to some extent to all their hard work, to getting to the late game in general for themselves, and reaping the benefits of the late game gear. But with the prices potentially getting too high, they run into the issue of it's actually never worth it from a financial standpoint to run that gear. I'm not saying that's what's happened here, but that's always a potential risk. And it can just sometimes make the economy really hard for late game to maintain. At the same time, though, this means that if you are going to take late game gear into a raid, you better be smart about how you play, things like that. So I think some interesting changes here, as well as some important changes. At the very least, this is the correct topic for the devs to be worried about. They should be constantly working on how the low level and high level players are sort of always interacting with each other, because you want to avoid, and this will never go away, but you do want to be addressing issues as far as, like, oh man, like every time I go into raid I always get beat up by players with purple armor and things like that. That will never go away. But it should be addressed and looked at, and the data should be analyzed. And I think this is them at the very least looking at the data and trying to see if they can tweak and improve that data to make the power curve less steep for the players who are at the very top. Fix some problems with crafting things that sometimes didn't cost correctly. Now they should cost more correctly. Fixing repair costs being much higher than intended. So repairing a shield or a helmet will at the very most cost 85% of what the item actually costs. So my assumption is that if your armor is all the way zeroed out, you're going for a full, like 100% repair on it, then it will cost you 85% of what the armor would cost originally. Some of the higher level armors would just cost so much to repair. It was insane. You would took like 20 points of damage and it would cost you like 20. It would cost you like 2,500. I don't know. It was a lot. I don't want to give examples, but it was a lot. Here is some balancing though that I'm a little more interested in when it comes to the armor and high level gear. The armor values for all of the rare and exotic armors got reduced by a couple of points here and there. Rare helmet 20 to 19, tactical helmet 17 to 16, the restoration helmet 17 to 16 for rare, blah 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 blah. Right, so a lot of this stuff got nerfed in some way or another. I think it's all helmets. None of it is body armor. Which is interesting because now this makes, at the very least, if you are a lower level player and you're fighting a higher level player, you're getting headshots, you will be rewarded more for your headshots now. Your headshots would do more damage, which I think makes sense. It doesn't matter what kind of armor that you should be wearing. If somebody with a pistol decks you 12 times in the head, you should be in pain. You need some aspirin. Updated Kmart shop prices and recipes for consumables. This is also really something that I really liked because for the most part, when it came to crafting a lot of these consumables, it was not worth crafting them. It was almost, in fact, for the strong stem here, which got increased from 1,000 to 3,000, it was actually the same price, about the same price to craft the combat stem, the strong stem, as it was to just buy it. Except if you wanted to craft it, you needed to take the time to gather the loot. But you can literally sell the loot it took to craft a strong stem, plus the cost of crafting the strong stem, and it was just about 1,000 K-marks. So there was actually zero reason to ever craft a lot of the medicine, because it was just cheaper or the same price to just buy it straight up, so it'd save you time. But they are increasing the cost of all of the major medicines. Again, this is going to be playing into that late game economy, with armors being crazy more expensive now, protecting you less with the head armor, but also if you want to bring in a good gun, good armor, and good medicine, and you're geared out for PvP, to go chat out and bully some noobs, it will cost you. And if you end up getting foamed on planet, it will cost you quite a bit now to bring good stuff in, from gun to armor to medicine. And not the biggest fan of potentially hurting high-level players in the economy, because it can create weird metas where players will just farm high-economy things, and it creates this money meta. And I think if we can avoid nerfing things 100% by economy, that'll be most ideal. But of course, I'm reserving. I don't want to go too deep into it because I think they are correct in addressing some of the high-level issues as far as high-level players interacting with low-level players. When it comes to crafting here, we got the gas grenade and the audio decoy grenade. Same thing for the medicine here. It was not worth it, even remotely, to craft the gas grenades. It was just easier to buy them. It really wasn't that much more expensive. But now they're reducing the cost of the craft by half, which is quite nice. And the amount of toxic glands from 3 to 1. This is actually a huge buff for crafting the gas grenade, I think, now, because of the increased cost for buying it. And way easier, way more manageable now at 1 gland instead of 3. This wasn't worth it for the 3 glands. You can just save those glands and turn them in for a mission and buy gas grenades with the money you got for that mission. The audio grenade, same thing. Not quite as significant as the gas grenade, but I think still a viable option now. I think in general, I would like to see a lot of the crafting stuff get buffed in a way, because I think that that's going to be sort of a nice middle ground as far as balancing lower level players obtaining higher level gear. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. And then the last bit is added uncommon and rare rewards to early game contracts. I don't know what that means, but we'll see what that means exactly, but that's kind of cool. I love this one, though. Rattlers and Marauders are now more likely to switch aggro when fighting multiple players at the same time. This is great because if you are in a firefight with PvP around, if you happen to pull aggro on it, you were dead. It was so hard to fight a creature that was constantly chasing you, trying to shoot at you with acid, and so having creatures potentially more dynamically switch targets in the middle of a fight will be quite nice. Also, too, I think this will make fighting Jeffs in a group of players more dynamic, where instead of having one player comfortably hold the aggro while the other two players just wailed on the Jeff, the Jeff will switch targets more often, making the fight more dynamic as far as like, oh right, I got aggro, he's got aggro, oh no, he's switching aggro, now you have aggro, and players will need to swap between who's running and who's shooting and things like that. So it might make fighting a Jeff in open area with teammates more fun. But we'll see how it goes. And there's some generic bug fixes about lost items counting towards mission progression and things like that. And some known issues. These are the same known issues that were in the last update as well. I think in summary, there was big economic changes to how the late game economy is going to work for the high level players, making armor cost more, the good medicines cost more, and then some buffs to crafting because crafting was pretty much worth it when it came to some consumables and grenades. Really, really cool. And as well as the nerf to the helmets, making rewarding players for headshots versus the high level players as well. I think in general, these are some nice. I think in general they are correct to understand. They are showing that they understand that the power difference between high level and low level players is still being felt, even in a 1v1 scenario. And of course, and so I think they're addressing that. They're addressing that in at least a way. So hope to see exactly how it's going to end up feeling for all of us Chads who got the good armor and stuff like that. Because I think everything we do in Cycle Frontier is a risk reward thing. So we'll see how the new risk feels as far as the increased cost for all of our good gear now. That's it. Exciting stuff. Let me guys know what you think, and I'll see you in the future.